Fate Graphite is a poor gatekeeper for the Vlarik family whose three children, Hado, Maymil, and Raphael, bully him due to their status as holy knights. Unfortunately, Fate's only skill is gluttony that does nothing except leave him starving permanently. The only one to show him kindness is Holy Knight Roxy Hart. Bandits rob the Vlarik house, and Fate ends up killing one. To his shock, gluttony consumes the bandit's soul, increasing Fate's strength and granting him the bandit's skills in appraisal and telepathy. Roxy offers to hire him to her Hart family, but he is too scared to leave. Suspecting gluttony might be useful after all, Fate buys a rusty black sword, realizing with telepathy it is the living magic sword Greed. Raphael is revealed to be researching immortality. With Greed's help, Fate slays a goblin pack, absorbing their strength and skills. Greed advises keeping gluttony secret, as it is a forbidden skill that goes against divine law. On his way home, telepathy reveals an adventurer kidnapping a young girl to sell to corrupt holy knights for sexual slavery. Despite not knowing how strong the adventurer might be, Fate follows him to try to save the girl. Fate defeats the adventurer and learns it was Hado planning to buy the girl, Sahara, whom Fate returns to her orphanage. Fate decides to accept the job working for Roxy. Lord Hart dies in battle, so his title passes to Roxy as Commander of the Holy Knights, though many doubt she will be capable in the role. Fate's starvation returns, only now it turns his eyes red. Greed reveals now gluttony has consumed a soul it will crave constantly, meaning Fate must kill regularly or gluttony will starve him to death or send him on a mindless rampage. The red eyes are hunger boost, a unique skill that makes him a more skilled hunter-killer until gluttony is fed. Fate slays goblins, hobgoblins, and a goblin king from whom he steals health regeneration to heal injuries almost instantly. In exchange for some of his strength, Greed also levels up and unlocks a new form, a bow that never misses. Fate anonymously donates the Goblin King's loot to the orphanage to help Sahara and her friends. Roxy visits town disguised as a commoner with Fate as her guard. She notes his sword needs maintenance. Roxy sees for herself a holy knight bullying people. To prevent the knight recognizing Roxy, Fate improvises that they are lovers arguing, then disappears into the crowd. Via telepathy, Fate can tell Roxy enjoys holding his hand. Fate realizes Roxy is looking for information on a suspected lich that slaughtered 100 goblins and a goblin king, panicking the whole city. Fate panics at the thought of knights patrolling the forests, as it will become difficult to feed gluttony without being seen. Roxy is eventually discovered, and deeply saddened people automatically treat her with fear when it is her job to protect them. After visiting a blacksmith to clean Greed, Roxy is angered that the Vlariks plan to hunt the supposed lich without informing her. They encounter the Vlarik siblings tormenting a lost child and leave irritated when Roxy confronts them. Helping the boy find his mother, Fate is reminded of a knight resembling Roxy who helped him after his father died. They return home and are thoroughly scolded by Haru. Needing a way to hunt without being seen, Fate secretly acquires a magic mask. The Vlariks and other knights gather in secret to discuss a place called Gallia. Due to repeated hunting trips, Fate becomes known as Corpse Lich. Roxy invites Fate to the Hart Vineyards to meet her mother, Lady Aisha, who recognizes their mutual crush. Fate learns kobolds always attack the vineyards. He encounters a red-eyed Gallian girl hunting the kobolds, but she cryptically warns he is still immature and needs to kill the kobolds more than she does. Roxy recognizes her as being from the Gallian region, where her father died. Roxy leads the kobold hunt, unaware one has evolved into a crowned kobold. Fate decides to hunt it at night, so Roxy won't be endangered. After killing it, Gluttony goes berserk from such a high-quality soul, and Fate fights to keep it under control. Roxy discovers the dead kobolds and suspects the Gallian girl, Aisha, who will soon die of chronic illness, secretly charges Fate with supporting Roxy after her death. Fate agrees but feels unworthy. Slaying goblins no longer satisfies gluttony, and hunger boost turns one eye red all the time, requiring hiding under an eye patch. Hado is chosen to hunt for Corpse Lich, while Roxy, due to the Vlariks scheming, is chosen to go to Gallia to finish the mission that killed her father. Fate begs her to refuse such an obvious plot against her life, but she agrees to go. Rafale and Memil travel to Tenburn to continue researching immortality, powerless against their corruption. Fate does the only thing he can. On his next hunt, he lets Hado find him, intending to kill him in revenge. Fate reveals his identity to Hado, destroys his holy sword, beats him severely, severs his arms and legs, and then kills him, stealing his holy sword technique, which makes Fate a holy knight automatically by law. Greed levels up and unlocks a scythe form. Roxy departs for her mission to slay the divine dragon, which will take 3 years even if she survives. Fate decides to follow her in secret. As well as soldiers, Roxy is joined by volunteers Miria and Morgan. Morgan's daughter Rain is a researcher studying the victims of Corpse Lich. Learning the weapon used is undoubtedly one of the weapons of mortal sin. While heading for Gallia, Fate rests at a shipping port and encounters Set, his childhood bully, desperately seeking warriors to protect their village from monsters. Fate almost refuses since the villagers exiled him after his father Dean died, but relents since gluttony requires feeding soon. Set's father, the chief, remembers Fate and decides he might at least be useful as a sacrifice to the monsters. Set, who has matured since their childhood, rejects this as barbaric and takes Fate into his own home, since the monsters recently killed his wife. Fate passes out, Set's young daughter having been tricked by the chief to offer Fate a drugged sweet. Set is able to wake Fate, who quickly slays the wyverns, stealing skills, fireball, and fire resistance. Only Set and his daughter survive, so Set decides to start a new life in the city and makes amends with Fate. Fate visits Dean's grave, then finds work guarding a traveling merchant to catch up to Roxy and her soldiers at Lanchester City. On the way, they encounter the Gallian girl, Mine. She reveals her axe is the mortal weapon Sloth, and that, like Fate, suffering from gluttony and starvation. She suffers from wrath and narcolepsy. Fate arrives in Lanchester before Roxy and must wait for her. Fate learns everyone in Lanchester possesses tattoos denoting their place in society, enforced by Lord Rudolph, who executes people daily. Greed has met Mine and Sloth before. He admits to Fate there are 7 mortal weapons and 7 mortal skills, of which gluttony is most sinful, as its ability to accumulate skills could make the wielder stronger than God, or send them insane. Fate learns to feed gluttony just enough souls to prevent insanity, and kills a sand golem, stealing the skill Sandstorm. Lanchester soldiers see him in his mask, so to hide his identity, he introduces himself as Corpse. Rudolph demands, Corpse serve him or be executed. Mine hits him so hard he flies out of the city into the desert, requiring her and Corpse to flee Lanchester as wanted criminals. Fate and Mine explore Housen Village. The chief retired Holy Knight, Aaron Barbados, offers Fate training as he clearly uses his strength inefficiently. Fate enters Hunger Boost again and detects monsters inside Housen Castle. After completing Aaron's training, Fate asks about the castle. Aaron reveals he once owned the castle, but during his absence, his wife and son were killed by a Lich Lord, which now inhabits the castle. Aaron decides to confront Lich Lord with Fate, while Mine protects the village in exchange for gold. Inside, they find Aaron's reanimated family, and his son Rook attacks him for failing to protect them. Fate cannot interfere, as killing them would consume their innocent souls. Instead, he destroys Lich Lord with Rook's sword, freeing their souls safely, while only consuming Lich Lord. Aaron pays Mine, who claims she is gathering funds to rebuild Gallia. This reminds Aaron he met Mine in his youth 50 years ago. Mine confirms she is much older than that, as she is cursed to never die. Meanwhile, Rafal and Memil successfully locate a Philosopher's Stone, bringing immortality one step closer. Returning home, they are furious to learn of Hado's murder, not by a monster, but by a human warrior known only as Corpse. Roxy and her team pass Housen, where Roxy is surprised to learn Aaron is her godfather. Roxy is curious who defeated Lich Lord, but Aaron keeps it secret by Fate's request. Aaron offers Roxy his training. Mine takes Fate to the city where she was born to kill the monster Haniel, a weaponized chimera created by Gallia's government. It is still an infant inside its cocoon, but is capable of resurrecting eternally while its soul is intact, so she needs fate to devour the soul. Haniel's heart is a Galian girl, making fate uneasy, but Mine assures him the girl was a monster even before fusing with Haniel. After a difficult fight, fate kills the girl. As he devours her soul, fate feels a great sorrow, which greed reveals is caused by having killed a family member, as the girl was undoubtedly related to Mine, who in turn is now Fate's sister, via wielding mortal weapons. Burying the girl, Fate asks Mine to kill him herself if he ever goes insane. Greed levels up again and gains a shield form. Fate and Mine part ways to fulfill their separate goals. Fate enters Babylon, a fortress city that separates Gallia from the kingdom. Fate learns Roxy has taken her father's place as commander of Babylon. Via telepathy, he senses someone in the crowd with murderous intentions for Roxy. Roxy takes over from her father's temporary replacement, Northern. Greed demands a proper scabbard from equipment craftsman Jade, but it costs 500 gold, so Fate must earn money and hunt a large orc pack. Hunters accuse him of stealing their kills, forcing Fate to beat them up. Roxy appears but doesn't recognize Fate under his skull mask. She accepts his excuse of self-defense and lets him go. News of the fight spreads, so Jade insists on providing Fate's equipment for half price, so his growing fame acts as advertising for his shop. Fate buys armor, but still can't afford the scabbard. Fate encounters Eris, who holds the deadly sin of lust. She has followed him ever since he unlocked Gluttony, and she knows Mine. She reveals the existence of hate, a force that accumulates around death and suffering and leads to the birth of crowned monsters. The same is true of humans who have accumulated vast amounts of hate from the abuse of holy knights towards commoners. Her goal is the birth of a crowned human who will protect the kingdom, so she plans to assassinate the only holy knight beloved by the commoners, Roxy. The resulting explosion of hate would definitely trigger a crowned human to appear. Fate storms out, enraged by Eris's plan and determined to protect Roxy.